Hello everyone, wherever you are, how are you doing? Welcome back with me. A film titled Fallen, 1998, tells the story of a police detective trying to solve an impossible case involving several people who commit murders using the exact same method, even though none of them know each other. So what mystery is really hiding behind these events? Alright, get comfortable, adjust your seat, tighten up, get ready, and enjoy the movie. Check it out. Set inside a prison, the story begins by showing a serial killer named Edgar Reese, who is about to be executed. Before his death, he makes one final request: to meet the police detective who captured him, so he can say adios and goodbye. And this is the man in question, John Hobbs, the police detective known for being honest and straight-laced. As John sits there calmly, listening to the killer's ramblings, suddenly, yes, Edgar reaches out his hand, and John assumes he wants one last handshake. But suddenly, Edgar starts acting strangely, muttering in a foreign language no one recognizes, and then...
Open the gate.
You know, you remind me of somebody, Hobbs. Oh, indeed you...
As John is about to leave, Edgar suddenly asks him,
Why is there a space between Lyons and Spakowski?
John has no idea who Lyons and Spakowski are. The only names he knows are just ordinary guys. Thinking it's nothing but nonsense, John simply walks away and leaves him behind. It's time for the execution. Police officers and the victims' families gather to witness the final moment of Edgar, the serial killer. Edgar himself shows no sign of fear at all, as if he isn't afraid of death, and...
Well, I'll come running back. Baby!
Right after Edgar dies, something unseen leaves his body, searching for someone new to inhabit. Whatever this entity is, it chooses the body of a young police officer as its next host.
But criminals don't accept consequences.
After the execution is over, John meets up with his two closest fellow officers, Lowe, the one with the mustache, and Jonesy, the one without. Lowe himself has only been on the team for 5 months, and he's curious about the rumors around the station about John, a man known as an honest cop, sincere loyal, anti-bribery, anti-corruption, and someone who never bends to questionable policies that hurt ordinary people. Lowe wonders how, in a system that's already this broken, John can still hold on to his principles. John simply replies, "I just don't want to be part of the untrustworthy ones. That's all."
My bad.
Guess I'm switching to Bud.
John lives with his younger brother, Samsul, who has a young son. Let's just call him his nephew. Their parents have already passed away, and Samsul's wife left him for another man. So John asked the two of them to stay at his place, partly to help them, and partly to fill the loneliness in his own home.
But don't make the boy any more peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
No more peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
Cut to the young officer who was possessed earlier. He walks into a crowded place and begins brushing against other people. Through that contact, the entity is able to jump from one body to another until it finally ends up inside a thin, unemployed man living a lonely life. The next morning, the unemployed man is seen inside someone else's apartment. He calmly eats a bowl of cereal, showing no guilt at all, even though the apartment belongs to someone he has already killed in the bathroom. Not long after, John and his team arrive at the scene following a report from a neighbor. They discover the victim was killed with a needle, and the killer even had time to eat breakfast before leaving the apartment. But what shocks John the most is what's written on the wall. 2 names, Lyons and Spakowski, exactly the same names Edgar mentioned before his execution.
Reese in his cell before he died, he asked me why is there a space.
Back at the station, John keeps wondering who Leon and Spakowski really are. Lowe suddenly speaks up, remembering an old commendation plaque stored in the archives. It turns out, Lyons and Spakowski were the names of 2 police officers back in the 1960s, but between those 2 names, there's one blank space, as if another name once belonged there. And even Lowe has no idea who it was.
Well, me, Bud, I don't know. No Lyons, I don't remember him. Spakowski, he was around.
That's when John remembers Edgar's strange question about why there was a gap between Lyons and Spakowski. Maybe the gap he meant was the missing name between the two. Using the limited internet access available at the time, John starts digging for information and eventually uncovers one name, Robert Milano, which might be the key to finally unraveling this case. The next day at the station, John immediately looks into Robert Milano, only to learn that he died by suicide. Not long after, he finds out that Robert Milano had a daughter named Greta Milano. Without wasting any time, John heads straight to her address.
Thank you.
And this is Greta, Robert Milano's daughter. At first, she refuses to talk, but eventually, Greta opens up and tells John about her late father, who was once known as a good and honest police officer. However, after Robert handled a serial murder case and successfully caught the killer, something about him suddenly changed. Not long after that, he was found dead in a cabin up in the mountains.
Okay. Very much. For the coffee as well.
After returning from Greta's house, John heads straight back to the station at his superior's request. Apparently, they've brought in a linguistics professor to help with the case. Since everything still connects to Edgar, the serial killer, it's crucial to find out what he actually said just before his execution. Was it just gibberish, or did it have a real meaning? After reviewing the footage of Edgar, the professor confirms that the words he spoke come from a sacred text recited in the Syrian Aramaic language, which is said to be over 3,000 years old.
So you don't know what he's saying?
Haven't the faintest. He's not too pleasant, is he?
John becomes even more baffled. How could someone like Edgar, a low-level criminal at best, possibly know an ancient language? Did he somehow cheat the system, or was there something more to it? Either way, it's giving John a headache. So he decides to keep digging into Robert Milano's case file, which is still safely stored in the archives. While going through the documents, John accidentally comes across a map, the location of the mountain cabin where Robert Milano's body was last found.
What else, you? What are you doing, more, nice talking to you.
All right, look.
Without wasting any time, the next morning John heads to the mountains, using the map he found to search for the cabin. Before long, he finally manages to locate the place. Located in a remote area near a lake, John enters the cabin and finds a way down to the basement. There he discovers a book and a photograph that seems to point toward a mirror. When he takes a closer look, he notices a name written on it. John has no idea who, or what, Azazel is. He quickly goes back to Greta, hoping she can explain the name. Greta tells him that it's tied to religion and to the supernatural, something she doubts John would believe so easily. She gives him only one piece of advice. If he still has family, or someone he cares about, he should stop investigating this case.
It's out of my hands, Miss Milano. I mean, it's my job.
Bye, Mr. Hall.
That's it.
After meeting Greta, John heads back to the station just as Jonesy receives a letter sent by the professor. Inside is the translation of the Syrian Aramaic words Edgar spoke. The meaning is roughly this: if I can't enter you through touch, there are still other ways to ruin your life. That night, as John returns home from work, he's being followed by the mysterious entity, now inside a new host. The figure keeps trailing him from a distance, never revealing itself. The next morning at the station, the entity has now taken over a cat before jumping again into a civilian's body. Still using the same method, physical contact. It keeps switching hosts rapidly, moving from a police officer to administrative staff, until it finally ends up inside Lo. With an unusual attitude and way of speaking, the entity, now inside Lo's body, approaches John as he sits there and then leans in to whisper.
Time is on my side.
In an instant, the entity jumps from Lo's body into another officer, but by the time John reaches him, it has already moved again, this time into a civilian.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
Something feels off. John immediately follows the civilian outside, just as the entity jumps into yet another body. To confirm what he's really dealing with, John calls out loudly, shouting its name.
I do know who you are. See?
While continuing to jump from one passing body to another, the entity, Azazel, warns John to be careful, because this time the thing he's facing is nothing like the criminals he's dealt with before. More curious than ever about Azazel, John goes back to Greta and tells her that this time he's ready to believe whatever she says. Greta finally explains that Azazel is a fallen angel, one who was cast down to earth as punishment. It's known to be cruel, able to move from body to body through touch. Azazel has only one purpose: to spread evil wherever it goes. Nothing more, nothing less.
He was Azazel.
Yes. So he tried to get inside. You remember he shook your hand?
The reason Azazel keeps targeting John is because he's a good, honest cop who has always done his job the right way. When John shook Edgar's hand at the beginning, Azazel was actually trying to jump into John's body, but it failed. That failure is what made it angry and determined to find another way to destroy John's life.
Thanks for listening.
Okay, thank you.
Because Greta is seen as interfering in its plans, Azazel, who has been watching from a distance, begins following her as she walks home. It takes over the body of an office worker and threatens that it could enter her next. And suddenly,
Watch out, Zoe.
it's not just Greta being targeted. Azazel has started going after the people closest to John. It begins with Samsel, his brother. When John comes home, he notices Samsel's eye is badly bruised. Samsel claims it happened because his son accidentally hit him. John quickly checks to make sure his nephew isn't possessed, then rushes outside to find the neighbor's kid, because that's where Azazel is.
You leave my family alone.
You come after me, and I'll come after you and your son.
After a brief chase with the neighbor's kid, Azazel quickly jumps into the body of a passerby who happens to have a gun in his car. John ends up in a shootout with the man, until finally,
Put the gun down!
just like before, once its host's body is dead, Azazel immediately searches for another one to possess. Unfortunately, the man who just died turns out to be a school math teacher. This leaves John feeling deeply guilty, and he slowly begins to break under the pressure. The incident quickly draws public attention. A police officer shooting an innocent civilian for no clear reason. Even though several eyewitnesses claim John acted in self-defense, the fact remains that the man he shot was a math teacher, and he happened to have a pregnant wife.
I'll get the hearing as soon as I can. Then I'll have to do.
While the police continue their investigation, John is allowed to go home and wait for further updates. Back at the house, he grows increasingly restless, anxious, worried, doubtful, afraid. All signs that he's starting to lose hope, which is exactly what Azazel wanted all along. The next morning, when John wakes up, he's shocked to see a message written on the mirror. Then he discovers another message, this time written on his nephew's chest. But what hits him the hardest is the death of his brother Samsel, who was killed by a cyanide injection. It's very likely that Azazel briefly possessed the nephew and murdered Samsel while John was still asleep. Not long after, news breaks with an update on yesterday's incident, officially naming John as a suspect. This happens because of Azazel's interference, possessing several witnesses and forcing them to give false statements on television. As if that isn't enough, one of John's colleagues calls from the station to warn him that officers are already on their way to his house to arrest him and bring him in.
Trick on somebody.
With the fact that Azazel possessed Samsel last night and made it look like a suicide, it will only make things worse for John, who will almost certainly be blamed for it. Not wanting to end up in prison before uncovering the truth, John decides to run, taking his nephew with him. At the station, John buys a pack of cigarettes, even though he doesn't smoke. No one really knows why he buys them. John and his nephew then continue their journey, heading to Greta's house, the only person he believes can still help them. There, Greta reminds John again that Azazel can only exist by using a human body as its host. It can't survive for long without one, but that doesn't make it weak. Whenever a host dies, Azazel simply moves on, drifting until it finds another body. That body dies, it jumps again, and has been repeating this cycle for thousands of years. So when John says he's going to find a way to defeat Azazel, Greta can only fall silent, because to her, it sounds impossible. Whatever his plan is, John leaves his nephew with Greta, then drives off while talking to Jonesy on the phone. During the call, John admits that he's completely desperate now. He says he's on his way to the mounting cabin, and if Jonesy really wants to understand why John had to shoot the math teacher, he invites him to come to the cabin alone. Long story short, night falls. As John sits alone inside the cabin, someone finally arrives. It has to be Jonesy. After all, he's the only one who knows where John is. But then...
Come on out, you son of a bitch! How much more fun can you have, huh?
Yes, it's his superior, the chief of police. Turns out Jonesy couldn't keep it to himself and didn't come alone like he promised. Just as the two of them move in to arrest John, suddenly...
Sometimes it's a big one.
Yes, suddenly, Jonesy shoots and kills his own superior. It turns out, Azazel had already possessed him since their phone call earlier that afternoon. So... And yes, John manages to take Jonesy down, even though technically, Azazel is the one inside his body. But this was all part of John's plan, a trap meant to lure Azazel into an isolated place. Because once Jonesy is about to die, Azazel won't have anyone else to jump into, except John, who's standing right there.
I need more time.
Time for what, asshole?
And just like Greta explained earlier, the reason Azazel couldn't possess John before was because John was a good principled cop who always did the right thing. But now, that protection is gone. After shooting an innocent math teacher, even if it was out of necessity, John's heart is filled with guilt and turmoil, and that inner weakness is exactly what allows Azazel to finally enter him with ease.
What is this?
Because John realized this earlier, that's why he deliberately bought a pack of cigarettes at the station. Now, those cigarettes have been laced with liquid cyanide, taken from the same poison that killed his brother Samsol. John lights one of the poisoned cigarettes and begins to smoke it, right at the moment Jonesy takes his final breath. Right after John finishes the cigarette, Azazel enters his body and tries to escape toward the car, but John's body is already failing. There's nothing Azazel can do except die together with John in this isolated place.
Can you imagine I for thousands going to die? One game. So what? Die.
And who would have guessed, beneath the cabin, there's actually a cat. Maybe some mischievous fate, or just pure bad luck. Put it there. Azazel survives after all, making John's sacrifice completely in vain. And with that, the film comes to an end.